The first light of dawn broke over the capital today, painting the horizon with a pale grey as the overnight train from the Polish border eased into the city. The station, normally bustling with the rhythm of daily commuters, was hushed, its atmosphere heavy with the awareness of war. And yet, onto this stage stepped an unexpected figure, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. His unannounced arrival carried with it a wave of surprise, curiosity, and symbolism. Prince Harry emerged quietly, without fanfare, but the significance of his presence was immediate. This was not a ceremonial royal visit with red carpets and trumpets. Instead, it was a gesture of solidarity, one that connected the lives of wounded Ukrainian soldiers with a man who has long championed the struggles of veterans across the globe. His appearance on Ukrainian soil sent a clear message that the world is watching and that the sacrifices of this nation's defenders are not being ignored. As he stepped onto the platform, Harry was greeted by a small but resolute delegation of Ukrainian officials and military representatives. Their handshakes were firm, their nods deliberate, the kind of gestures that carried both gratitude and urgency. Around them stood railway workers in uniform, their ordinary duties transformed into something historic simply by being present. This scene, captured and released by Ukraine's state railway, echoed far beyond Kyiv. A prince had arrived not for diplomacy, but for humanity. The Duke of Sussex is no stranger to the world of military service and sacrifice. Having flown combat missions in Afghanistan as an Apache helicopter co-pilot, Harry knows firsthand the burdens carried by those who serve. He has been open about his own experiences with post-traumatic stress, speaking candidly about the invisible scars of war. It was that personal journey that led him to create the Invictus Games, an international sporting event that gives wounded veterans the chance to compete, to heal, and to rediscover purpose. For Ukrainian soldiers injured in this war, Harry's presence is not just symbolic, it is profoundly personal. Ukraine has been a participant in the Invictus Games since 2014. Over the years, its competitors, some missing limbs, others bearing shrapnel wounds, have stood proudly on the global stage. For them, Harry is not merely a royal figure, but a patron of resilience, someone who has fought to ensure their stories are heard. His arrival in Kyiv is a continuation of that mission, carried into one of the most dangerous conflict zones in the world. The timing of this visit matters. Ukraine remains under relentless attack. The night before Harry's arrival, air raid sirens wailed across the capital, warning of incoming drones. Citizens sought shelter underground, as they have countless times since the war began. Against that backdrop of danger, Harry chose to travel the same way presidents, prime ministers and generals have travelled before him, on the overnight train from Poland, a route that has become a symbol of solidarity in itself. By taking this train, he stood alongside the millions of Ukrainians who have relied on it for safety, for mobility, and for hope. Observers are quick to note that this trip is not political. Harry is no longer a working member of the British royal family, and his visit carries no official diplomatic weight. Yet in a war where morale is as vital as weapons, his gesture resonates deeply. To soldiers lying in hospital beds, unsure of their futures, a visit from a man who understands their pain, who has built a global platform for their recovery, is a reminder that their suffering is not invisible. Later in the day, Harry is expected to visit rehabilitation centres in Kyiv, where some of the most severely wounded servicemen and women are being treated. Many of these soldiers have lost arms or legs in mine explosions. Others are young conscripts struggling with the trauma of combat, haunted by what they have seen and endured. For them, the healing process is long, often uncertain. Doctors speak often about the importance of morale, about how encouragement can quicken recovery. A handshake, a word of recognition, the promise of inclusion in international events. These things can matter as much as medicine. For Harry, this is more than an act of compassion. It is a continuation of his lifelong mission to highlight the strength and dignity of veterans. He has built his public identity around this cause. And while some of his choices in recent years have stirred debate and controversy, here in Ukraine, the message is clear and uncomplicated. The Duke came to listen, to encourage, and to remind soldiers that they are part of a larger story, a global struggle for dignity and survival. But not everyone views such visits without skepticism. Critics point out that gestures of solidarity, however well-intentioned, cannot replace the urgent need for weapons, funding, and medical supplies. Others worry that appearances by high-profile figures risk politicizing the war, drawing attention away from the practical needs on the ground. Yet for many Ukrainians, such criticisms fade in comparison to the value of being seen, of having their pain acknowledged by someone who has walked the path of a soldier himself. Harry's visit also underscores the global dimension of this conflict. Ukraine is not fighting alone, and even those without direct political or military power are finding ways to show support. The presence of a prince, someone who has stood on battlefields and now stands with those who have been wounded by them, adds another layer to Ukraine's story. It is a reminder that their struggle is not confined to their borders, that it reverberates across continents and into the conscience of the world. This morning, as Harry's convoy left the train station and disappeared into Kyiv's crowded streets, it left behind more than images for the evening news. It left behind a sense of dignity, a rare spark of encouragement for a nation wearied by war. For ordinary Ukrainians watching the footage, the symbolism was powerful. In their darkest hour, even those far from the front lines still care enough to come, to witness, to stand with them. Harry himself has often spoken about the meaning of service, about how true leadership is measured not in titles, but in actions. His presence here, away from the pomp of palaces and the controversies of his personal life, reflects that belief. In Kyiv, he was not a prince surrounded by ceremony, but a man standing shoulder to shoulder with those who have sacrificed everything. As the day unfolds, his meetings with wounded veterans will likely echo beyond Ukraine's borders. Images of Harry listening intently, clasping the hands of soldiers, offering words of encouragement. These will circulate worldwide, carrying a message that war is not just fought in trenches or skies, but also in the long recovery of those who survive it. And for the Ukrainian soldiers who meet him today, that message will matter. They will see in Harry someone who understands their struggles, someone who has dedicated years of his life to ensuring that wounded warriors everywhere find not only healing, but pride. In Kyiv's railway station this morning, amid mist and uncertainty, a surprising visitor reminded the world of a simple truth. War may break bodies, but it cannot extinguish dignity. For Prince Harry, this visit is another step in a personal journey that continues to intersect with the lives of those scarred by conflict. For Ukraine, it is a reminder that even in times of despair, solidarity can arrive quietly, stepping off a train at dawn, extending a hand of recognition and bringing with it a glimmer of hope.
Good morning, and we have a little present from Ukrainian Rail. So yeah.
Super Royal Express.
Пасажири, будьте уважні та обережні.